My name is Era, and I'm the host of the Tamil Creator Podcast. I chat with creators from all over the world to share their stories and discuss hot topics in a way that I hope inspires, educates, and entertains you. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Tamil Creator. I'm your host, Era. Today I'm with a very interesting guest, Stefan Thurairatnam. And some of you might have seen his story recently, but he was someone that used to work in the finance world, and as of about 3-4 years ago, is living the dream that I think a lot of people theoretically think they want. But as me and him were chatting, there's a lot of work that kind of goes into it. But he's now actually a luxury travel ambassador / influencer, and it seems like the dream life, but behind every nice picture, there's a ton of work, and I'll kind of let him explain that. But Stefan, why don't we kind of start off things by just kind of explaining kind of your upbringing, who you are, and we'll kind of get more into your story.
Well, my name's Stefan Thurairatnam. Thank you for the introduction. So born in Germany, ethnic background, obviously Sri Lankan. Pretty much came to Canada when I was 5 years old. Like every other kid, parents wanted them to go to school, become something, engineer, lawyer, doctor. And I, what's one thing I told my parents is like, you'll never see me as a doctor, lawyer, and engineer, but I'll definitely go into something that I want. So I ended up going into graphic designs, which I had a passion for, web design, graphics, editing. Right after I graduated, I ended up working for Wireless Wave as a sales rep. From there, became an assistant manager, quickly became a manager, became top 3 in Canada for sales. And then short after, I had an opportunity to work for RBC. And it was pretty much a platter. I didn't apply for it at that time. So my brother-in-law was already working for RBC. My sister was working for RBC. And my parents, coming from a banking, they're like, you should do it. It's more secure, stability, it has such a brown mentality behind the banking aspect. Long story short, from the day I got hired, I wanted to quit. Pretty much I would have a client in front of me, and half the times I was looking at vacations. And that's when you're clearly doing something wrong. But nonetheless, I excelled very well. Won bronze, silver, gold in any of the galas. I did quite well. And then there comes a point where in life you say, hey, like, if you're looking for, and this is my belief, if you are constantly looking for vacation or thinking about a vacation and the job you're doing, that's not the job for you. And that's where I decided to take my leap of faith.
That's amazing. There's a couple of things there, but I think the big one is the last point that you mentioned, where I run my own business as well, and I don't really. It's not like I'm a workaholic or anything. I enjoy work, but I kind of know how to divide my time between work and not work. But it's not like I'm like, hey, I got to clock out at 5, or it's Saturday or Sunday, I'm not going to do work. I just, on the weekend, I feel like doing a little bit of work in the evening, in the morning. Like, it doesn't feel like it's something I don't want to do, or somebody's holding a gun to my head. So it's pretty cool that you kind of identified that really early on. And, I got to mention this as well. We talked about it earlier. For those of you that can't obviously see what I'm seeing, but if you see Stefan's picture, you'll notice the most distinguishing feature about him is his beard. And it really puts, even James Harden is known for his beard, Fear the beard to shame. So, I don't know if I'm bringing it up because I think I'm jealous. Like I tried to grow my beard for like maybe a couple of months. It was pretty pathetic. I went back to clean shaven, but I just wanted to kind of give this man's beard a shout out. So
respect.
and actually, Stefan actually mentioned that, the beard, actually, why don't you tell it where you kind of said the beard is kind of a great conversation starter, and talk about that.
It's absolutely, it's a big conversation starter. It doesn't matter which country I'm in. It's probably the first conversation. It could be as simple as me going to a restaurant. I would like to say heads turn But that's me gloating my own horn. But it's true. It's definitely a conversation starter. And I just felt like this could definitely be a brand aspect of how I want to bring myself as a content creator. You know, it would have been easy to just say, hey, you know, I know how to work the camera well. I know how to use camera for videography well. I could do the video content, and I could easily say, hey, do I want to get into a niche that's already saturated? You know, and I could have been a photographer who does weddings, and I'm not putting anyone down. So please, like, that's one thing I do. I have so much respect for those guys in the wedding industry, photography industry, videography industry, but I wanted to do something different. So the leap of faith I was talking about before is pretty much, I was already at that point growing my beard. And I was like, heck, like I had my cousin's wedding. That wasn't my actual initial start, where I was going to England with my sister and my brother-in-law. And we were going on a trip for the wedding, and I had a couple of days left on vacation. And that's where things changed, where I was like, okay, let's do something crazy, right? So pretty much, like, just to give I literally went and I booked a ticket. And I pretty much landed in Mauritius. I had no idea where Mauritius was at that point. That was like the start of my journey. So I wasn't like, so I knew countries obviously, but then I was like, okay, what do I do? I booked a ticket to Mauritius. Did not know it was their winter, which is their monsoon season. Um, Probably the best 10 days that a man could ask for to start his journey. I met a lot of great people during that time. I built a lot of connections. I started working with the Lux Resort, the brand Lux. I ended up working with paying for one, and then created content to show the marketing manager, and got 3 collabs, my first ever collabs, on the spot. And I did all their properties in Mauritius. And that's where I pretty much took my beard. I took a look that I wanted, and I literally gunned for it.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing that you kind of said that. And one of the things I kind of want to unpack is, they might just, people just might see you. And I know you kind of brand yourself as a luxury brand ambassador, but it's a business. And like the mechanics of running a business are also kind of a reality of what you do. Like everyone kind of sees that final picture. You're kind of like, I've seen the pictures you sent me, which is like, you're like in a nice property. It's a nice shot, maybe with like a drone or something that you've kind of used. But behind that one shot, you kind of had to set up this business. You had to build a team. You have to kind of get contracts, collect money, because I mean you can get clients, but if nobody's paying you, you still don't have anything. So talk about that as well
Yeah.
before we kind of delve deeper into the other side.
Well, initially it started with, like, if I'm just looking at myself as a content creator, um, I don't like calling myself an influencer. It's a very saturated word.
Yes.
Um, Anyone that has a couple thousand followings or less would like to say they're an influencer, right? And I like to consider myself as a luxury content creator, right? So I stick to my niche as saying, okay, I want to just target the luxury brands, right? And that's another way of putting me apart from saying, hey, do I want to be a travel blogger who goes to tourist destination, chases waterfalls, goes to all the main Instagrammable spots? Or do I want to say, hey, I want to be able to go to $10,000 a night, $50,000 a night, $100,000 a night, and do I want to create content there? Right. And that's the beginning of what you have to know which direction you want to go to, and say, I'm going to continue this even if I fail. Right. So initially it started with collabs, right? Partnerships, collabs, while working with different brands. And then you start pitching yourself to have a value, right? And then I start working with not just luxury hotels, but brands that fit my niche, that makes sense to me, right? Where you get, especially with brands, they'll pay you so much more. There's more perks to it because you're almost exclusive. Where when you look at the travel the travel side of it, it's more hotels like to do partnerships, collabs, partnerships. But it's knowing how to build your brand, creating a media kit, right? Pretty much you're building a digital resume for yourself, right? Your Instagram is great, your Facebook is great, but if you have no really stats to back it up, or a media kit which actually tells your story, it's different. Like I could pretty much sell my media kit for a solid dollar amount, and know people will have success behind it, because it's almost like a formula already made for you. You just pretty much plug and play your own aspect of it, right?
So when you say collab, I guess what you mean is like these are like more partnerships of, they're giving you say like free accommodations or some kind of opportunity where it's not like a paid opportunity.
Correct. So that's why in the beginning it was more like, and even till this day, there are some hotels where I would just like to be like, no, I just want to come to you because I rather take the accommodation. It's not about the money. When I started this, it was never about the money. I had no care to make a single dime on it. I strictly did it because I wanted to follow a passion that's not been touched in the Southeast Asian culture, especially in the Tamil culture. And I wanted to do something different. I wanted to be remembered for probably the only Tamilan out there doing luxury travel. And I could confidently say it. And I wanted to be remembered as that. And even then, it wasn't about that. It was just how many countries can I touch? How many stamps can I get on my passport? And how many flights can I jump on? That was the goal, right? It was literally me saying goodbye 9 to 5. Hello, let me live my life. Let me enjoy this beautiful planet. People will dream about going. How do I make that a reality? The first question I asked myself ever was, how do I vacation for free? That's my first question. Okay, and then it's like, okay, great. Everyone will probably ask that question. Second question is, how do I make a vacation a lifestyle? Cool. Now, how do I make that lifestyle into a monetized income? And you start playing around with numbers, right? And you start working, you create content. You probably, the only money I technically really spend is on flights. And even that, I don't even as much anymore because of the amount of points I collect. It probably compensates on its own, right? So those are the things that you had to ask yourself. If I had to just say, hey, I want to become a travel blogger, no problem. I get a minivan across Canada and those camp vans. I go across, create the most beautiful content and just go on, right? But I wanted to say, hey, like this is the niche, this is what I want to stick to, and this is what I want to do. And I want to be able to create the I wish. How do I create the I wish concept, right? And that's pretty much what I'm pretty much selling right now. And from that, I pretty much got into with the whole Lux Vision Media Group is I wanted to use my expertise and say, okay, this is how I build a brand. I know how to build a following. I know how to create viral content. How do I help others now? It took me 3 times to create the page I have by deleting 600 photos, 380 photos, and now I believe I'm at like 361 photos. That's me going through trial and error because I had no one to ever help me or guide me. Why now, with the clients I have, I like to help them. I like to guide them. Any questions they have, I like to say, hey, this is what we need to do. Like, it's not about how many photos you put out a day or in a week. It's about the quality content you put out and knowing when your most engagement period is to create that viral content, right? So
There's a lot there. One thing I wanted to ask was, I know you mentioned kind of the media kit as kind of your digital kind of resume, and that you kind of down to science where if you were to kind of to offer it as a template to others just to kind of copy and just follow that exact format, you're pretty confident that somebody else that wants to kind of be a content creator and kind of build kind of the lifestyle of business that you have could do that.
I've sold it to many, and I've seen the success.
Oh, wow. Amazing.
I give them the exact email template I use. That's besides the media kit. I pretty much sell them my pitch, what I pitch the hotels I go to, how your media kit should look like, and the content you should create. So, like I said, it's saying you want to do it is one thing, being consistent is another thing, right? And if you say, hey, I'm going to dive into this, you dive in complete and say, I'm going to do this 200% no matter what. I'm just going to run with it, right? That's with any content creator, right? It doesn't have to be in the travel industry or the makeup industry or anyone. It's you need to be able to say, I'm going to be consistent. I've come to the point where I don't need to post every day to keep my content consistent. But it's always good to have consistent content coming out, right? More than that, it's keeping your page aesthetic. I think it's key in my industry. It could be different in other industry or other niches, right? So
This episode is sponsored by nobody. That's right, nobody. So if you could be kind enough to hit that subscribe button, that would mean a lot to me. And you kind of talked about, you kind of figured out this formula when you're reaching out to these high-end brands that you kind of talked about. I mean, I have a couple of questions there. I guess the first one was the first kind of client that you landed that was like, a sizable one that you were kind of proud of. Sending that email or whatever that reach out process that you had, did you have any idea that this was kind of the iteration of the email or reach out that was kind of work and kind of land you that client? I'm just curious, like, at what point were you just confident that, hey, when I send out this email, I want this brand, I'm going to get this brand?
So pretty much when I reach out to a hotel, so I don't just reach out to a hotel. So my thing is I'll let's take in Dubai, right? I go on Google and I be like, give me the top 3 hotels in Dubai. And I reach out. And then I go top 5, right? So my first picks are always the top 3 hotels in that destination. The first time I've ever did it, I probably sent out multiple email templates for me to see which one bites. And that's how I figured out which formula I should use, because if I had continuously tried the same one, nothing would have happened, right? So what I did in the beginning was I tried 3 different emails, 3 different media kits, and said, let's try it. And then one clicked, and then I've been using that one ever since. I've changed my media kit. I've probably changed my media kit 3 times, I like to say, where I think the one right now is my bread and butter to say, hey, if I want a hotel, I know if I send this, I'm going to get it 90% or 99%, like with confidence.
And, you talked about, you're staying at $10,000, $50,000, $100,000 night hotels. I want to know where these places are, because I guess I've never been exposed to that world, but like, so you stayed at $100,000 a night hotel places, or 50,000?
It's actually, so it actually works out to be 72,000 pounds a night.
Got it.
Which converts to close to 130,000
Canadian.
Canadian. Yeah, like pretty much everything is private. Like prior to me staying there, Britney Spears was staying there, and prior to that, Michael Jordan stayed there.
Is this like
so I pretty much call.
Is this like a well?
Yeah, it's a well-known. No, yeah. So pretty much, I had called my mom and said, "Hey, I'm taking a deuce exactly where Britney Spears took a deuce."
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, and it's in the Maldives, I stayed at about 50K a night.
Wow.
In Maldives, a lot takes, like my 30th birthday would have racked up was Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and Maldives for my 30th birthday. That trip would have costed close to $500,000.
Wow. But it was paid for. I guess the
Yeah,
accommodations were like,
yeah, like all accommodations were like my whole trip was from beginning to end.
okay. I mean, I guess for people listening that kind of never had kind of this kind of I would say privilege that you've kind of earned, but what's the difference in experience between like $1,000, even like a 500 or $1,000 a night, and like, the kind of places you're talking about? What's the actual difference in experience? I mean, I know the number is crazy, and I imagine some kind of experience that I guess I'm trying to like quantify or frame it.
Bro, it doesn't justify. Like I walked into some places and I'm like, what the hell where is the money going? Like I can't justify it.
Wow.
Like, okay, maybe the toilet I'm sitting on is marble, like the bathtub is marble, but then it's cool in a secluded place. Great. I have a private butler, which I could get from 100,000 a night to even 10,000 a night, depending on the location of the world. Cool. Sure, I have a private driver that drives a Bentley. Cool. But then it's like, where does the money actually go?
Got it.
Right? Sometimes it's not justifiable.
Yeah, no, I just pretty interesting about that. And I know you kind of hinted at this before, but kind of let's delve deeper into it. So you built this pretty significant following on social media. I mean, you're about, I think, 100 and something thousand. And I know that you kind of hinted at this, which was like quality over quantity. Would you say that's kind of your key learning, is like really, especially in your kind of space, or like maybe some others similar, that quality is way more important than quantity?
Of course. In my industry, you want to create the most epic perspective or the epic concept behind a video or a photo. What makes it so different from every other Maldives picture or every other Dubai picture or every other Bali photo? It's what are the perspective. Perspective is key in my industry. Mm-hmm. Right? At the end of the day, like an aerial effect is great. Everyone could get a drone, everyone could do a top view shot, but which angle is the one that's going to say, hey, it's going to be the most repost picture? Like, for instance, like I stayed in a presidential suite in Al Maha Resort, middle of nowhere. It's like 10,000 square feet or something. But that content went viral. And then I had another content like in Kimala, it's a treehouse in Thailand. Content went viral, right? It's been published in magazines. But it's about the perspective. Another key thing is in my industry is the edit. Edit is key, right? Especially with what I do is you got to be true to the color, and you can't overexpose certain colors, because you want to show you want people, when people come up to you and reach out to you, you want to be able to say, hey, is this the actual blue you see? Right? Because there are so many places I could choose out probably 20 photos online and say, hey, like this does not exist, right? Because that color does not exist. That's saturated, right? Or they've really brought out the highlight in this color. So you want to be true to what you do, especially with being an ambassador for Luxury World Traveler as well too. We stay true to our colors, true to our brand, and we want to show people, and we want to like get people to the places and say, hey, this is what I saw. This is what I'm actually going to get. So the color, like I've built my own preset, which I've been debating to sell for over maybe a year and a half. But it's one of those things, I've built it and it's on the fence.
So
when
you say preset, what do you mean by that?
Editing Lightroom preset.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, like so, like I've built a collection of about like 20 presets, which is exclusive to what I worked with, the places I've gone to, the colors I've worked with, and it's something I've definitely been on the fence, but we'll see how the year goes.
So when you say you sell like those preset filters, does that mean once you sell them, you can't use them again? Like Or like,
No, no, people could buy it, and if let's say you go to the same destination as I have, or even a similar color scheme, and you click one of my presets, and it's an automatic edit, right?
I
It
see.
color grades it to like a really nice blue, or the green gets dulled out, or like it looks very sandy, or like it has a nice dreamy effect, right? It's just pretty much like anyone could use it. One click of a button, minor edit details, and you have a picture similar to mine, right?
Interesting.
So
I had no idea. Um,
yeah, yeah.
so like, how would you go and sell that? Is that just like people you know, or like marketplace that you can kind of list something like this?
Yeah, you would ideally sell it on your website. You could sell it on Instagram as like a sponsored ad, um, mostly on your website,
Got it.
or like you could put it on like Etsy. It all depends on where you want to brand yourself, right?
Mm,
Again, like it was never something that I wanted to make money out of. A lot of people have asked me to sell it, and it's one of those things pondering on my head to see like, should I do it, should I not? We'll
mm,
see.
interesting. What's been like your favorite? I mean, it's an obvious question, but what's like your favorite country to kind of travel to, or even like favorite project you've worked on? Both of those.
Well, well, it's definitely the last picture I posted, which was the Maldives. Definitely, I think it's just picturesque. Um, so I'm definitely excited each time I go there. I've probably done like 19 properties there, and each time I've gone, I've been taken away. It's like it's my first time. It's like the same reactions each time. You know what I mean? Um, a brand I've really enjoyed working with was definitely Heineken. Heineken was probably my biggest reach when it came to paid partnership. It was definitely a really big turnaround in being able to go to Japan. They flew me out to Japan. I worked with some of the top influencers out of Canada, and it was a great experience overall. I got to be at the Rugby World Cup, represent Canada as a whole. So it was definitely a good experience.
And another question that would come to mind, especially during this time, is obviously COVID has kind of really hampered world travel, um, and you're obviously in the travel space. So, how has COVID impacted like your business, kind of your maybe even your personal traveling, or has it not?
Well, when COVID first hit last year, I was actually um, January, February, I was in Sri Lanka, India, Maldives. Come March, um, I went with a PR agency to Cuba to open up a hotel. And that's when COVID was actually hitting. And then I came back. I went to Jamaica in August, and then I traveled within Canada to 3 provinces. And then my next trip would be coming up. But other than that, it would be I've been traveling as much and as little as I can to still create content for work for business, but still be able to say, hey, like that urge is still there. It's that itch
Mm.
to just get on that plane and say, let's do this.
So, like with the luxury brands, I mean, obviously there's a certain price point of people that can afford it to go to those kind of places. And you're saying, I guess, these brands that you typically work with, their business wasn't really impacted as much. You're saying, or like it was, based on what you kind of
Um,
saw.
well, a lot of like depends, right? Like if you talk about like let's say Mexico is open for business this whole time, right? Dominican Republic, like I have like about 15 countries I think I put on the list to say which countries are still open. A lot of these places still accept it. Like even when borders open up with Spain and Italy, like every single hotel was ram packed. So any influencer that was stuck was pretty much going into Barcelona, right, or to Rome or Venice to pretty much just get their itch out. I have tons of friends who are in Mexico right now, like pretty much showcasing different properties because occupancy is pretty low, and hotels are willing to promote themselves through influencers, right? So, but with me, COVID gave me a chance to revamp my brand. It actually took my brand to a peak, um, where right now I'm sitting at 32 million impressions a month, over 18 million reach a month, which I didn't even hit when I was traveling. So I'm definitely doing something right. And I took the chance to revamp my whole media kit, which I was telling you guys before. And I just came up with a branding where I really focused on Lux Vision and say, hey, this is what we want to do with this brand. Now we're partnered and affiliated with multiple press release. I wanted to do something again different, right? I just didn't want to be known as a social media marketing company, but what can we do different for brands and companies and entrepreneurs, etc. And I said, okay, let's take our company and move it to media coverage. How do I get into media coverage? How do I get people get verified or use media coverage to get to those levels? Affiliate with Forbes, Entrepreneur, LA Weekly, Digital Journal, the list just goes on, about over 50, 60 publications. And just being able to say, hey, we could now take your brand or you as an individual and publish you on press. You will forever be published, right? It's not about just Instagram or Facebook or TikTok, but hey, a new platform comes out. How do I get verified? Well, if you have media coverage, you'll be able to do it. And that was my mentality. How do I now change that? How do I get hotels and media coverage included? It's just putting everything I know together to build something much stronger to say, hey, social media could go down in the next 2 to 5 years. Media coverage will never go down. So it's just brainstorming and working out what I can do.
Did you know that every time you left a 5 out of 5 review for this podcast, a Tamil parent lets their child pursue a career in the creative arts? Okay, that's probably not true, but if there's a chance that it is, do you really want to jinx it? Leave a review. Do it for the young creative in you. And in terms of just the future of travel, how do you see that playing out? I mean, one of the things I've heard of, is business travel. Me being on the sales side, I've kind of seen before I'd have to travel to make sales. Now with Zoom, I don't have to do that. So, picturing business travel going down and, based on kind of, you said the most impressions you've ever got is in the last couple of months. And maybe that part of that is like people having that pent up demand to kind of, they're stuck in their country, stuck in their home, stuck in like a certain area, and they want to see the world that's kind of just been sitting there waiting for them. So I'm just curious, like, what your thoughts are on the future of travel and like things like digital nomads, yeah.
Well, with travel, tourism will always exist, so it's one of those industries that will always exist. You're right, more people are at home, so they're viewing more things. But even if I take 10 million people out, I'm still seeing at about 22 million impressions or like 10 million reach. I still think that is a phenomenal reach.
For sure.
To say that goes through your account monthly. And I think, if anything, as long as I produce the content I create and go to the most exotic places in the world, like my list is endless. Like if people are so like growing up, everyone just wanted to say, I want to go to Hawaii, or Maldives wasn't even a thing growing up, right? It just probably became a thing in the last 5 to 10 years, maybe, that it really popped out. But growing up, everyone was like, hey, wedding destination, Hawaii, honeymoon, Hawaii, to a point where I boycott Hawaii. Like I haven't stepped foot into Hawaii for that sole reason, right? Do I want to go now? Yes, right? It's like I've done my fair share of travel, but it was more for like to say, hey, these are places that exist, and like I have like so many hidden gems that you could still go out to, and there's so much more to explore. I don't think it's going to affect anyone. Being a digital nomad, benefit is I could work from anywhere in the world. I'm able to do it, say, hey, as long as I have a laptop, I have my camera equipment, let's do it. purchasing a place here and everything will change that, obviously, but to say call home. But traveling will always be there for me. Like until like I'm able to say, hey, like unless someone cuts me off from traveling, then it's a different story. But other than that, I would definitely be on the go.
Do you think the general public, even after things get settled with COVID, do you think travel will like this pent up demand will actually play out and you'll have like a crazy boom in like travel all over the world, or do you think there'll still be some kind of based on kind of you're traveling a bit, so you kind of are seeing how things are picking up as different parts of the world are kind of handling COVID. So I'm curious to your perspective of how things are, what you're seeing on the ground.
I think per country it will be different. I think, if a country relies on tourism, they will be more strict. For instance, when our third wave, when we were in phase 3 of this whole phase 3 again, Anguilla had just opened phase 1. Like, you know what I mean? Because they solely rely on tourism. So depending on the country, if you care about your country and if you care about how many tourists you want to come and you want to have that continuous income generated by businesses and hotels, people will do it differently. You know what I mean? And that's the problem with like even with Canada or US or like India, like Pakistan, Iran, all these different places had no care. And now all of a sudden they're like, oh shit, we're in the situation, we can't get out now. Like with my parents' business, we used to go to India every year. We're not going to step foot into India for at least another 5 years because they're not going to come out of it, right? Or even like Sri Lanka is taking a huge hit right now, right? But I think as long as the country strictens the rules for their people, tourism will still exist in those places and it'll continuously be a success. It depends per country, to be honest.
That makes sense, I guess, because you're saying like they rely so much on tourism, they have to be careful. Otherwise, if it goes on
Like
too
Canada
long,
doesn't exactly like Canada doesn't rely on tourism at all.
yeah,
Like what, you're gonna come see Niagara Falls or go to Banff or go to Whistler,
yeah,
and we're done.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
other than that, like we're not here to have a hidden beach or exotic palm tree island. You know what I mean? But then we talk about like the Virgin Islands or like Bali, or you talk about Seychelles, Mauritius, Bora Bora, Fiji, all these places, they're tightened up because they solely fall into the category of tourism and their accommodations aren't cheap. So if they want people to come, they're going to be strict about the COVID aspect of it and say, hey, we want you guys to still travel, get vaccinated, come into our country, enjoy our country, but leave safe, right? So it's different.
Hmm. One of the things that I found interesting when you did your TamilCulture interview is I asked you a question about, how have friends and family supported you? And then I also asked, were there any doubters? Actually, no, sorry, it was another question. We'll get into that. But why don't we talk about, because the other question I'm talking about, I loved how candid you were, which, people sometimes aren't. But why don't we talk about like, your friends and family kind of, what kind of support you got kind of along the way, or maybe support you didn't get along the way?
My friends and family like supported me. My parents, to start off with, were like, oh, what the hell are you doing?
Mhm.
And they were like, like this doesn't make sense. A lot of times they said like, people are going to be just like, you're just pretty much going from one country to the next. You know what I mean? It's like you have no life pretty much. People are going to say things, but then um, each time I went to a new country, I would FaceTime my parents and I'd be like, yo, this is where I'm at. All right. And then they would get excited. And they were in so much awe of the places I go to and the destination I'm stepping foot into where people would only dream of. Um, so then I wanted to make that a reality for them. So for 2 anniversaries in a row, I took my parents to the Maldives. Um, got I partnered up with Sri Lankan airline for one of the trips. They gave my parents first class, full service, like, like champagne. Both my parents don't drink, so I was telling the hostess to send it back my way. So like pretty much yeah, I got them to experience what I experienced. I was tired of really showing them photos and calling them on WhatsApp or FaceTime. And then last year, I had the ability to take my parents, my sister, my brother-in-law, and my niece to the Maldives as well too. So a group of, and my uncle, where we actually got to go. We were in Sri Lanka, India, and Chennai, and Maldives, and we had the largest water bungalow on the whole island. Um, and it was a great experience. You know what I mean? Like, just to be able to share that. So just to be able to share it with the people I love. I've taken my friends to, when we were in Japan, we got to stay in some of the Four Seasons property, Hoshino properties, in Portugal, Four Seasons. Like, people that have been really close with me, I've been able to share that. It's great that I'm able to do it, but to say, hey, I get to take you, or I get to take someone that's close to me and say, hey, I want you to experience this through me, because of just as simple as saying, just do what you want, like just go with your passion, just push for it, go for it. I wanted that. For me, the only way to show it was to actually take you. You know what I mean? So just to have that experience, I was glad I was able to do it and help the people I supported me throughout this whole thing.
That's amazing. How do I get in your friend circle? No, I'm just kidding, man.
Yeah, just look me up.
One of the things I was curious about is, you've kind of built this brand. You're kind of doing amazing things on the luxury travel side, just luxury brand side. Where do you see yourself in, like, the next 35 years? I mean, it's a hard question to sometimes answer, but I'm sure you sound like, you have a clear vision of probably where you want to head to.
I want to take Lex Vision to pretty much a bigger scale than where it is. I do want to get into the influencer PR management aspect of it. Additionally, take the press and move it to another level as well too. And I still want to continue to travel. Pretty much like that's my passion. I want to be able to travel with my loved ones and say, hey, while we travel, it's not about the money, it's creating the memories. And just being able to live life. Life is too short, especially during this last pandemic. People that seem to look fine, not here no more, right? So at the end of the day, it's just able to live life, live once, live with no regrets, and take the company to a bigger standard than what it is already. So,
and like in terms of your personal legacy, like how do you want to be remembered by your friends and family?
The only Dumoulin to do luxury travel content. You know what it is? I want people to follow my footsteps if they have the support and family and friends. Am I proud to say I'm the only one to do it? Been published in multiple publications, and spoke my story, just the way I spoke with you guys, and just to be known as someone who didn't follow just going school, and don't get me wrong, I completely support anyone with education, but I also believe you should follow a passion, because at the end of the day, you're going to be living that life, not your parents. And I think you should do what you love. And like I said, it all comes back to that first question. If you're constantly thinking about vacation, and that's what's on your mind 24/7, that's not the industry you're in, or that's not the job for you. I'm at a point where I could say, like what you said, I want to maybe on a Sunday night, doesn't matter, 11 o'clock at night, I want to pull out my laptop and do some editing. Well, that's because I love my job. Or I want to wake up at 7 in the morning and say, hey, like I really just want to sit back, smoke some shisha and work on my laptop. You know what I mean? So again, it's one of those things. I don't ever feel I'm doing a job. It's fun for me. You know what I mean? So it's different.
Money can be hard to come by, but here's a $100 opportunity for you. Join my free newsletter for free exclusive content and a free chance to win $100 when I hold special draws. Did I mention that it's free? What's an insecurity that you have?
Truth be told,
Mm-hmm.
don't have any.
Confident man.
It's not that I'm confident. I feel like, hey, this is what God gave you. Be happy with it. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter if I can't grow hair or if I can't grow facial hair or if I'm fat or no, this is the body I'm in. Can I get my body into a better shape? 100%. Can I get a trainer? Yes, maybe. Can I work out at home? Definitely. Those are things that are in your control, right? So for people to say, hey, like I feel insecure about my weight or whatnot, well, there's certain things that are in your control too. And I believe you should be just happy with who you are. At the end of the day, this is if you want to like me, go like me. If you don't follow me. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's like I've never done it for the follows. I've never done it for the likes. I've done it because I was happy with what I was doing and I was passionate about it. So when it comes to insecurities, no, I'm happy with what God gave me and I live by it.
So if you got a chance to sit down with 16-year-old Stefan, what would you tell him?
Don't be stupid. Nah, it's pretty much to say, do what you're passionate about. Like I really wish, like I started this probably when, like social media was at its prime, like when Instagram at its prime. One of my friends, he was one of the first guys on Instagram who got verified by Instagram very early in the game, because what Instagram used to do was they used to, you know how we have Explorer? They used to do top 10. So they used to put top 10 people you should follow. So it'd be like Kim Kardashian or let's say Kanye or like whatever, and your face would pop there too. And they used to promote you like every so often. And like, like those were the guys who were pioneers in the game who are now sitting at 1 million, 500,000, doesn't matter. But like everything is like paid. You know what I mean? Like, so I wish like I never cared for social media before. And now it's to a point where it's like, I wish I did it earlier in the game and said, okay, maybe I should get into the game and say, hey, let's try this out, But again, everything comes with timing. But 16-year-old Stefan, I would say, follow your passion, do what you like. At the end of the day, you got to live your life, do things that are right for you and have no regrets. I live by that, at the end of the day, the minute you have regrets, that's when you have doubts. You should live your life without regrets. Any decision you make, don't hesitate about it. Just look straight.
And this is the question I wanted to ask you earlier because of how honest your answer was. But I think I'd asked you, how has the Toronto Tamil community impacted you on a personal and professional level? And you said
0. Truth be told, at the end of the day, I'm actually quite saddened about that. Not saddened, but more. A problem with our culture is, and I'll be candid, it's instead of supporting the people around you, we look at how to bring that person down. Right? And that might not be our culture alone, it happens in a lot of other cultures. And I had more hate to it than more support in my own community. I've had a lot of hate comments. I've had a lot of hate DMs, threats, saying, like if I say this on this podcast, people will be like, what the hell's going on? But like, it's very raw things to say. And it's like, how do you take your time to message someone and put your energy and time like I care? You know what I mean? It's like, if you don't like my content, don't like it. If you don't like me as an individual, don't follow me. You know, if you hate me, block me. You know, it's like, but it's like more than support. I found that it was more on a negative aspect. Which again, like I said, I never did it for anyone. I did it for myself. I did it for my friends, my family that supported me. So I never really cared who really supported me, who didn't. Um, would I have loved the support? Yes. Was it maybe because I was doing something differently compared to a lot of Tamil people? Maybe. Would it have changed if I was a wedding photographer or, someone who did engagement shoot? Would that have changed people's opinion about me? Maybe, right? Or is it because people think I'm living this luxury lifestyle, going from hotel to hotel, blowing money? Or why don't you get to know me and see what I really do, how much work goes behind it, um, and see what the game is all about, right? So at the end of the day, I felt like the support was zero, but like my life continued. Did that motivate me to do better? Hell yeah, right? So at the end of the day, that's how I look at it. It's not being like cocky or anything. Like I said, like I wish I truly had the support. I got more support from probably many other cultures compared to my own, and that saddened to me because when you had asked me that question, I was like, I should just put it as NA, not applicable. But I was like, it was one of those things I actually thought about, and I'm like, should I be candid about it or should I lie about it? And this was going on TamilCulture. So I was like, let's be candid. If someone goes against me on it, by all means. But I rather have the next person who does something different be supported than be against it. Support the people that are doing different things. A simple example is, when like in Scarborough, right, a Tamil person asks for an election, right? What ends up happening? Two other Tamils come and compete. Well, you stupid, you just split the votes three ways instead of supporting it one guy. But that mentality isn't there, right? So
And so
saddens.
like for you, why do you think people, like you said, like, if I don't like somebody, won't follow them. I don't like their content, I won't follow them. Why do you think people like took that extra step of like, messaging like this, like it sounds like bad stuff. So
Believe me, I have no idea.
mm,
Like I literally have pondered, like I've been in places traveling and I get like hate comments and I'm like you really took the time, someone who doesn't follow me,
yeah.
to find my page, to go through my DM and message me and wasted 2 minutes of my life that I will never get back. Right? But it's like, why? It's like, if you have nothing good to say, don't say it. And especially don't say it from a fake account.
Yeah.
And it's like, why hide behind a fake account? Like it's like, if you have something to say, I'd rather hear it from you. Just say it.
Yeah.
I think you live a bougie life, and I think you think you live a luxurious life in different. Well, no, I don't pay for it. I worked hard to get partnerships. I've built a brand for myself, and I'm doing something different. And I want to be an inspiration to our younger generation to say, hey, Tamil people can do this. You don't need to be Caucasian or Asian or Spanish or African American to do it. We can do it too at a very high level, right? And I believe that the next generation could probably even do it better than me, right? But let's do it. Let's support each other. Let's inspire each other to do it, and I think that's what's important, and I think that's missing in our culture sometimes. We are so driven to talk about someone's negativity so quick that we forget, hey, maybe this guy is doing something different, or maybe she is doing something different that is outside the box, but yet competing at the same level as one of the top players. Right?
So what's like a piece of advice that you would give to your fellow aspiring, Tamil creators out there?
Be passionate, be consistent, inspire each other. Don't be afraid to ask for advice. One thing that I personally do is I don't have anyone manage my page. I do it myself. It doesn't matter how many DMs I get or how many direct messages or requests I have. I'll go through my DMs and just to give myself reflection to anyone. And one person that I actually think is amazing at it, believe it or not, is actor Madhavan, who I've actually talked multiple times, and he responds directly.
Yep.
And I think that is one of the most amazing characteristics about someone in his shoes. And so if someone like him can do it, and someone who could give advice or whatever the case might be, just feel free to message. You'll never know if they'll respond or not. But there's no harm in trying. I believe that asking for someone for help, worst case, you're going to get a no. Good case scenario, you're going to get an advice. It doesn't cost a thing, helping someone doesn't cost a thing. And I believe in that. I live by it. Why, again, like I started Lux Vision Media Group is because I want to be able to say, hey, I'll be able to help you, guide you, because I didn't have that. Just follow your footsteps, follow your dreams, do things that make sense for you. Again, I'm not saying not to listen to someone's parent and say don't become a doctor, an engineer, or a lawyer, or whatever the case might be. But if you have a talent or if you have a passion, gun for it, right? At least if you failed, you'll know you tried, right? At least now I know if things don't work out, hey, I did get to travel the world for free. I did get to vacation for free. I did build a brand for myself. I lived my best life with no regrets. Like I could pass away tomorrow and be like, hey, I lived my life. Right? I'm quite confident I could say it.
And that's a great message for people listening. And about Madhavan, it's funny you said that, because my sister's friend is still obsessed with Madhavan, and I think she had reached out. And you're right, like he actually directly messaged her back, and I think, she's like a super fan, like she's done like really good things for Madhavan, and I think on like her birthday, I think he remembered, and he like you said, he's Madhavan, right? But I think he took the time to like call her or like do a video or something for her. So it's pretty crazy, you said, for someone to get to a certain level and still remember like the people that helped put him or her in that place. So,
of course.
So that's awesome. Well, that's a good way to kind of end up. That's a good good message. So it's kind of the serious part of the discussion. So now we'll get into the fun game at the end. I call Creative Confession. So basically, I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions, and you're going to kind of just say the first thing that kind of comes to mind. Ready?
Cool.
Okay.
Ready. Let's do it.
Favorite Tamil food?
Parapu.
Something that scares you?
Jeez. Spider? No, I don't know. Like nothing.
Favorite show you're watching? Favorite show you're watching?
Probably like I watched it. Money Heist.
Money Heist. Okay. A place you're itching to travel to after the pandemic is over? I guess you're kind of already doing that, but.
Well, I won't say where that is, but definitely. Cook Island.
Where's that?
It's in the Polynesians.
Okay. A fellow Tamil creator you want to give a shout out to?
My boy Siva, Divine Method.
Favorite childhood memory?
Going to Disney while living in Germany on my dad's birthday in France for their opening.
Pet peeve?
I hate when someone chews gum and talks. Just makes me want to punch them.
A person or celebrity that you look up to?
I would say Michael Jordan.
Hmm.
Definitely the strive for greatness, in a sense he was consistent. Didn't give up. When everyone doubted him, he overcame. So definitely.
You kind of already answered this, but you're one of the few people that could say this. But if you knew you're going to die tomorrow, a regret that you'd have, but I guess you'd have none, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Age you'd want to retire by?
I already retired at 28. I'm living my best life.
I love the answer. A
Well, at
celeb.
28, I quit RBC,
Mm-hmm.
and I said, hey, I'm gonna travel from as my lifestyle.
And
So I count that as my retirement.
when I say retirement, I have a different definition than like most people. I think it's like they think it's like when you stop working, but I think it's like the day you get to like start doing everything in that day that you want to do when you want to do it. So basically, freedom of time, not like the typical definition of retirement. That's how I look at it, and it seems like
So then I'll still say 28.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll still say 28.
Celebrity whose life you'd want to experience for one day.
To say Michael Jordan again, I guess.
And finally, a PSA you want to leave our audience with.
I don't know. Just a message to the audience. I would just say, enjoy your life. At the end of the day, you get one life. I think this pandemic has taught a lot of people that life could be really short, and you could really lose someone real quick. Not because they, got a heart attack or a car crash or whatever the case might be, just as simple as a virus. And I feel that, follow your heart, do things that you want to do, drive it, be consistent, be passionate. And let's show others that we could stand up to the same level, and that we shouldn't fear anyone at the end of the day. I think one of the questions you asked me was, what does it mean to be Tamil? Right? And it's constantly fighting for our right? Freedom of speech, to a sense, not that we actually have it, but we have the ability from the outside to show others we can still do what others think we can. And I think it's just follow your footsteps.
Well, it's a good way to kind of end off. Stefan, for anybody kind of listening and kind of super inspired by your story, maybe they want to buy those preset filters or, get that media kit or just, reach out for some advice. What's the best way for them to connect with you?
You can definitely follow me on Instagram. It's Stefan Thurairatnam. My Facebook, Stefan Thurairatnam. Pretty much my handle is the same for LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, just because I wanted to get verified. So I wanted to be consistent. Ended up getting my Facebook verified, but yeah, just Stefan Thurairatnam. If you have any social media questions, marketing, you could follow us on our website at Lux Vision Media Group, or our Instagram account or our Facebook account. So
awesome.
Definitely.
Well, thank you again for kind of, making time to connect and sharing your story. And
thank you.
I think a ton of people are going to get a lot of things out of this, like that first question
I
you
hope
asked.
so.
Well, I think that first question you asked about, if you're sitting at your desk, or not your desk now, but maybe your office at home, and you're dreaming about the weekend or vacation, hopefully that question sparks to them a change in their life to kind of do something where they're not thinking about the weekend or thinking about going on vacation. They're living their best life, like you're saying. So, yeah.
Well, let me ask you something. What made you start TamilCulture?
Actually, the reason we started TamilCulture, the site was, we were kind of tired of the way that the Tamil community was portrayed in the media. It was kind of, one of three things, which was you're a tiger, like a terrorist, or you do credit card fraud, or like you're a gangster. One of three things. Like, like there's nothing positive in the media. I'm exaggerating, but there's a lot of negativity around how we were portrayed, and we want to kind of create a place online, a meeting place online where people could celebrate, inspire, and learn from people doing amazing things in the global community. So whether you're like someone like yourself that's doing something out of the box, a politician, entrepreneur, athlete, just have a place where, like, if I'm a young person and I'm looking to get inspiration or direction or motivation to do something, they have a place where they can kind of find that. Or secondary to that is like talk about topics that people typically don't talk about in the community, that's kind of like hidden away. So yeah.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah.
Definitely amazing.
Yeah.
It's
So
cool, cool, cool. And Tamil creators was something recent,
yeah. So Tamil
much more
Creator,
recent.
yeah, I started that as like a personal podcast because, as you kind of see, I ask, a ton of questions. I'm a curious person, and I'm curious about people. So I've always like had conversations with people like yourself that I've met interesting people, but I never get to share that conversation. Like I might have just talked to them at a party or like somewhere, but it's just like us talking, and then that's it. Like only I got that knowledge. So I'm like, hey, why don't I record a conversation that I would have had in private with some interesting people that I know, and then share that with people. And the hope is, again, hopefully they find it entertaining, they learn, and they get inspired. And like you said, hopefully somebody listening to this, whether they want to be, like a content creator for travel or like something else, they listen to this. If one person listens and they get inspired and do it, and I hear about it, that's cool for me. I mean, I'm like you in the sense that I do this for me, whether one person listens or like 10,000 people listen. But obviously, the more people that get to listen to the message, the more better I feel about it, because I get to impact potentially that many people. But I do it for me, and by doing it for me, I'm not really worried about numbers, etc. But I know that that will come if I do, just like you, something that I believe in. So
Yeah, so absolutely, and it's consistent. Like
yeah,
as long as you reach out to more people, people reach out to you, and you build your platform, right?
yeah, no,
That's
it's
cool, man. That's
yeah,
awesome. That's awesome. Well,
yeah,
I'm glad I got gave me the opportunity, so I appreciate it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
yeah. No worries. Thanks again for your time, and for those of you listening, on to the next one.